All right, we're doing this. All right. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm running late. My bad. I had to be a parent. But I had an excellent time hanging out with two small, well, not two small people. One of them's turning 18 here soon, and the other one turned 13. My kids had to do a quick drive to Indiana, which, if you ever go to Indiana, I'm sorry. I heard there's a good cigar shop called Cigar in Evansville. Mark up there, right this side, he's the Indiana man. So if you have any questions, ask that guy. Don't ask this guy. I have nothing nice to say. Um, Other than what the hell is a hosier? But we'll get into that later. I'm excitable today. All right, so today we're reviewing the 1989 Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which on paper, if you put this right next to Doctor Who on concept, in my opinion, is not that far off. You have a weird guy showing up in a telephone booth saying, "Hey, you want to go for an adventure? Have a little fun? Go throughout history? Sure, why not?" This one happens to be the late, but never the late and always great George Carlin,
Yeah.
and who will always be one of my favorite comedians slash actor. Um, especially
As long as you just count that whole Shiny Time Station thing, yeah, no problem.
he knows kids. He was a conductor on Thomas Train. I don't know, something like that.
Tom with the Tank Engine.
Tank Engine. There we go.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
It was a thing when I was a kid. All right.
So was Thundark when I was a kid, but one I liked a lot better than the other.
So this month we will be talking about school movies and just kind of having fun, because if you have kids or if you are young adult still or a kid, you're getting ready to go into high school, college, or you're sending your kids to high school, college, or grade school, depends on what age your kids are. And we figured we'll have a little bit of fun, so we picked high school, college themed movies. I mean, there's probably a few of these you can turn into RPGs. I could definitely see Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure being a really goofy RPG they could have a lot of fun with. Hell, they made a cartoon series of it back in the day. So that's my pick for today. That is why I picked it. I grew up. This movie came out when I was 6 years old. And I cannot tell you how many times me and my buddy would do the air guitar, just because we didn't know any better and we thought it was cool. I was a dork. But that's the reason why I picked this movie. I think this would be fun as an RPG if you find the right crowd. You have to vibe that 80s feel, though. I mean, you couldn't be modern Bill and Ted would just be depressing. You have to be got to get Eddie Van Halen into my band because we don't know how to play the musical instruments that we have, type feel to it.
I'm going to say as much. We have an equivalent, in the last 10 years called Metalopocalypse.
That's true. Yeah, but I don't know if I want to go time traveling with that group.
No, y'all end up dead.
All right. So that's why I picked this movie. I'll start with Mark. Mark, what did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's been a long while since I've seen it, but yeah, it was a fun romp, and it was the whole. I chuckled when they said Socrates for the first time. I was like, "Oh yeah, that was pretty big deal. That's pretty funny back in the day." So yeah.
All right, Omino, you said you did not like this the first time around when you saw this. Just too stupid for you?
Well, how do I want to put this? Because it had so much hype. I'm just like, God, I hate watching, kind of stoners with this. And I never liked Keanu Reeves. Oddly enough, I didn't like Keanu Reeves until like the last 10 years. But before then, that said is, in retrospect, and I begin to to break it down, it's just saying, these guys have actually a really good vocabulary and they just act dumb. And they're smarter than you have to give them credit for. It's just they just don't care about school. That's all right. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more once I removed my biases and said, let's just look at it and see how these characters actually are. So okay.
Were they stoners? I didn't get the feel that they were. I just thought they
No,
were.
no, no,
idiots.
no. Well, they weren't, but they talked like a lot of them. You know.
Yeah,
Okay.
the vocabulary was clearly stoner or the valley-esque.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And to be fair, I did like his step.
I think everybody liked his stepmom. I mean, shut up, Bill or Ted.
Yeah.
Shut up, Ted.
Well, I mean, you said this was a wholesome family movie before we started. Yes, but they put those little things in there, which I think are pretty funny. You know, he's like, "In your bed, man." It's like,
What was this movie rated?
Probably PG.
It was PG. It was a PG movie with definitely some serious adult undertones.
Hey, Barbarella was rated PG too, so let's
That came out in the 70s, wasn't it?
60s, and so was Clash of the Titans, where they actually had nudity in there too. So it's not. That was before the PG-13 existed.
Close up.
Yeah. So, Shadow, this movie felt like it was filmed in your part of the world.
Well, it was. Simi Valley. No, excuse me. San Dimas is. It's not that far. The movie's a classic. It should remain that way. I had I want to say geography teacher or history. It was geography teacher. Literally the living embodiment of Buttermaker from the Bad News Bears. Drunk every day, vodka or something in his coffee cup, and nobody messed with him except this guy, of course. But I found really, really fun ways to mess with him. But he would always play this movie sometime during the year. He'd break out the TV on the cart with the VCR and play this movie and then fall asleep at his desk while we watched it, or at least, part of it, and then we'd watch the next part the next day. And it was, it's really, when you look at it, at least maybe it's from an adult perspective, it's really charming and kind of has something for everybody. And, I'm glad you picked it. I wish the little guy could have watched it with us, but he's not watching anything right now. He's sick as a dog. So, let's wish him well and he gets better real quick, because having a cold right before you go back to school is just
Bogus, man. Just utterly bogus. Not
Well,
gnarly.
I don't know. I always got sick whenever I went on vacation. Like, what the hell? Like, I thought.
But he did just come back. He did just come back from vacation. He got sick in Mexico. Then he came back and went to Magic Mountain with his friends, and they all came back with something ugly. 102 temperature.
Something's in the
headache.
water, man. You're not when you're in Mexico. Don't drink the water. That's why they made tequila.
But he got better from whatever was in Mexico, some sort of infection, and then not even a week later he got this.
All right. Okay. This movie kind of had a spattering of all kinds of different historical. For those who don't know, this movie is technically a history movie in a really weird way. It has not Wyatt Earp. It has Billy the Kid. It has Socrates. It had Freud. It had help me out, guys. Beethoven.
Genghis Khan, Abraham Lincoln, Joan of Arc. I think that's it. Did you say
Well,
Beethoven?
Sigmund Freud, Genghis Khan,
Napoleon.
Yeah,
Oh
Napoleon.
yeah, he's one of the best characters in the movie. He was perfect. Napoleon was perfect.
The Waterloo. That was, I think, we'll get into that. But no, this movie was technically Bill and Ted. For those who have not watched the movie, were failing high school because they were just idiots. I mean,
They just didn't care.
they didn't care. So this teacher, the history teacher's like, you guys have to perform a history oral exam, a history paper.
Presentation.
Presentation.
Oral report, yeah.
Yeah. So Bill and Ted because they are the saviors of the future. We'll get into that maybe later, possibly down the road. But they were gifted a time machine that was in the shape of a phone booth by Rufus, who was a guy from the future played by George Carlin. Yeah, I said his name correctly. And there's a little bit more to it, but that's really kind of what you need to know. A bunch of high school kids that were just, I don't even know what they weren't stoners. I mean, they looked like this. They felt like, they sound like, they look, this typical 80s stoners, but they weren't.
They were just from the rocker clique of that era, more or less metal, even though they didn't really dress it for whatever reason. Obviously, one kid having a police officer for a father, he probably had to dress kind of low key, with whatever his parents, purchased for him. A lot of you probably remember those days until you finally were able to, pick out your own clothes and, pay for your own clothes, things like that. Right. They were just, they clearly weren't dumb because they came up with the most ingenious time travel work around for every situation that would ever happen to them ever. Do it in the future, come back in the past, boom.
So if we think about it now, it will be, yeah.
We can do it later.
We'll get into that in a moment because I actually kind of wanted to talk about that.
Genius. Clearly, they weren't idiots. And, if you watch the next movie, and I don't know about the movie after that, they clearly, saved the universe. Yes, so they started out, a little lazy. That's really all it was. It's just a matter of laziness. And, there were like 15 or 16 tops, at that time because they weren't freshmen.
Right.
They could have been seniors, I suppose, but Bill was a little scrawny for a senior, so maybe, but maybe not, because they do grow taller in the next movie. So I'm guessing they weren't, they were probably just, sophomores in high school. And, at that point, they showed the jocks, they showed the nerds and the brains, and these guys were, right there in the rocker clique, and they proved themselves to be worthy of all that, comes their way later on.
So, did any of you guys have a particular person in history that they picked up you enjoyed more than the other? I know now you said Napoleon.
No, I didn't say I liked Napoleon the best. I like Socrates.
Shadow said Napoleon?
Yeah, Shadow said
Napoleon.
Napoleon.
I said he was perfect, not my favorite. You guys already know my favorite.
I mean, Socrates was my favorite. And, like Shadow was talking about the background, it was interesting as they're pulling away from the school. You can see all the different people doing different stuff in the background. That's what I found interesting was actually a lot of the wherever they shot this, and I think they shot multiple locations by the looks of it, but it was actually pretty good for the whole thing. But yeah, Socrates is my favorite.
Now, are you being biased just because he was, Greek?
No, because I thought that he was the only one that was a decent human being.
No, fair. Wow. Ow.
All
right, Mark, what about you?
Present that remark there.
Well, you name one of the characters that they brought back that was decent, that didn't kill people. Besides Sigmund Freud. Yeah, but I don't really, that's but she started a war. I mean,
And she was French.
Actually,
all right. Well,
I looked up the actress. I didn't realize she was part of the Go-Go's.
Yes, she was the unsung hero of the Go-Go's.
My ex-wife pointed that out while we're watching this movie. Well, okay, Mark, who was your favorite character?
In the day, that was a big draw to the movie. Even us metalheads, understood, what was going on there.
Let's try this one more time. Mark, who was your favorite?
Of the historical figures,
Yeah.
Probably Napoleon. I thought he was the funniest. That would be my first choice. He had the best parts by himself and just was funny the way he acted and everything. I liked him the best.
I think me and Shadow are actually going to agree on this. So you might want to mark on the calendar that me and Shadow on stream actually agreed on something. Shadow, who is your favorite character?
Billy the Kid, of course. I mean, have you met me? Come on, guys, that's like a no-brainer. I'm just
When I
curious
saw
as to
him
why he
show
was
up
your
at the
favorite.
bar, he goes up, I need 2 guys, and Bill and Ted's like, yes. What I win, I keep. What you win, I keep. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair.
The only thing I will be fair and honest with this, he wasn't. That wasn't Billy the Kid. Okay, right off the bat, didn't look like him. Certainly didn't really. He acted like the stereotypical, gunslinger cowboy, ne'er do well, but not Billy the Kid. You guys know the history. That wasn't him. But you're gonna throw a cowboy in the mix. I don't really have a choice. Otherwise, I have to give up a certain card, and I'm not willing to give up that card. So I'm gonna go with Billy. Napoleon was awesome. He was perfect in every way, and the way you saw his little arc at Waterloo, that was so heartwarming to watch him go from, dickweed to, interacting with the kids, in a really nice way, even, first pushing the kids out of the way and then, actually, talking to the little girl and trying to explain, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. You're so lucky. You could just, picture in your head what he was saying and how much he was just like, more or less he just died and went to heaven and was just blown away by all this stuff from the ice cream to the water slides. It was picture perfect.
I say, out of a lot of the characters didn't actually have speaking roles, except for like the very end, and they didn't really show personalities of some of the other ones. I mean, like Beethoven, him playing the piano at the mall was like probably the biggest scene he's got, other than washing the windows. Genghis Khan cleaning out the toilet and brushing his hair with the comb. The baseball bats, him with the baseball bats, where I thought was slightly amusing. But I really like the cowboy. There was a scene where they show up in the medieval era, and he's like, Bill, say with Socrates, and he goes in the book bag and just grabs a red football, and they're playing football. Socrates is playing a catch with Billy the Kid. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of little background things that I think they did a good job with.
And don't forget the two of them saved their bacon, in the medieval era. That was just that's the kind of guy I want to be. When I go back in time, save the day sort of thing. Do the full Robin Hood thing. I mean, that was so right out of Robin Hood. It was so much fun.
Well, the other part is for this movie is they do a lot of little background stuff while they're filming the foreground. And if you look in the background, you pick up little things just for a lot of scenes, which I think is really good.
I'm almost pretty sure everybody in this movie had a good time filming this movie. There are certain movies we've watched in the back where I might think in the back of my head, I bet you those actors had to be miserable to make this movie work. This one, I'm almost pretty sure everybody had a good time.
I'm not even sure what the budget was. It wasn't real big when you look at a lot of it. It was.
Yeah, most of the money was on Carlin's paycheck and a couple of special effects.
I'm not even sure the Carl got a big paycheck for this.
Well, I mean, he probably got paid more than anybody else.
Well, the budget for the movie was $10 million. The box office was $40.5 million. So they made their money back.
Yeah.
For that time, that's a lot of money. So there's a few actors in this movie that you recognize from other stuff. When I first saw the movie, I was a kid. I've watched this movie a lot over the years, but it took me. How should I say? it took me a while to realize Bill was from the Lost Boys. Was there any actors in here that, or actresses, as the case may be, that I was like, oh wait, that's who that is?
George Carlin. There's a
Socrates. I've seen Socrates as, a minor player in various things. I couldn't name a single one of them, but he's very recognizable. Probably played some sort of academic multiple times. Billy the Kid, I can't recall having ever seen him before or since then, which is a shame.
Ted's father.
Obviously,
Ted's
Genghis
dad,
Khan,
I've seen, yeah.
Yeah. And Genghis Khan, I'm certain we've seen elsewhere, probably multiple times. He seemed like a pretty well-rounded, familiar character actor that, again, I probably couldn't name a single thing, but I know I've seen him before.
Socrates played a character on Babylon 5.
Oh yeah. Wasn't he the priest, the Jewish rabbi?
I have no idea. I haven't seen the entire movie, TV series as a whole.
Have you even gotten past season 1?
No. I've been trying, damn it.
You got to watch one a week, and then once you get past that for half a year, then you'll be like, oh, now I get to go to the good ones.
Yeah, I'm telling you, once you get past season 1 into season 2, you'll be like Jackie watching Firefly. He'll love it so much that he doesn't want to watch any more of it because he knows it's going to be over. No,
I will still watch Firefly, and it's not over. They made a movie called Serenity to close that whole thing.
Well, no, I know, but 14 episodes plus a movie does not do the whole.
It doesn't do it justice, but it did at least have a closing. So.
Absolutely.
Here's one for Billy the Kid. The actor who played Billy the Kid, Dan Shore. He was on the 1982 Tron. He played Ram.
And after?
He's nothing. I mean, Air Force One with Harrison Ford. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, he's been in other stuff, but nothing I recognize.
Oh, okay.
So we did favorite character. Now, what did you guys think of the dad? Bill. Actually, I think both dads were kind of interesting, honestly. I mean, one dad belongs in fucking prison. I don't care what anybody says. The other dad was a dick.
Hey. They married a couple of years. He was going for that young 18-year-old. She was
a senior when they were a freshman.
Well, exactly. That makes it legal.
Yeah,
but I thought that was funny. Hey, man, I remember when I asked you out to prom. Shut up.
Yeah, that whole back and forth. That scene right there was one of the funniest parts of the movie, hands down. You can't deny that was just over the top, just hysterical.
Yeah, well, I like that where you can tell that he has these mixed conflicting feelings, and when they kick him out of his room,
at the end, the edible complex, yeah.
And when they kick him out of his room, I thought
that was a
so
little much.
wrong.
And after last night, yeah, that was a little much.
So wrong. Like, oh man.
That was for you, Raven.
So, if you were stuck with one of the dads, who would you prefer to be stuck with? I'm sending you to military school, or I'm
in Alaska.
In Alaska.
Yeah, I'm going with the cop as a dad. Absolutely.
What about you, Omen?
For which part? Sorry, what was it?
If you got saddled with one of the dads, who would you prefer to be saddled with?
Oh my God. Yeah, this sounds horrible. I'd probably go for Bill's dad, just because he's got some mojo somewhere, because he picked her up and she still seemed to really be interested in him. So she may have some, electric complexes. But
I hate to quote Connell, but that's pure daddy issues.
Well, I like it how she goes up to their history teacher like, hi.
Yeah, we have a 4-letter word for that kind of woman, or you could use numbers, but yeah.
Well, but that's if you're the kid, you're that age, you're like, well, at least I
Or you
did
just go with the clinical term, which is hypergamy. But yeah,
it.
What about you, Mark? Who would you be saddled with? Prefer to be saddled with?
Probably if I was in their shoes and that, probably the dad that was dating Bill's mom.
Well, they were married. He married her.
Yeah, they're married. Yeah, that's right. They were married.
The whole thing I would do is just make sure that I, just change the sheets when you're done. That's all.
You can now have my room. I'll be sleeping on the couch. If the couch is even safe. Really wish Jack was here.
The cop as a dad. That's why you need the cop as a dad, because they'll have access to that blue light.
The black light?
Whatever. Yeah.
Speaking of which, from yesterday, remember how I was talking example of what I mean
No,
by
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You just got bleeped out and you just came back. What were you talking about yesterday?
But Shadow knows what I'm talking about by just different colors of light and how it reflects differently. It's what we were talking about yesterday about different worlds. Anyway, go ahead.
So, I don't know. Between the two dads, military school or... See, I was actually good in high school. I kept my shit together and, did well in high school. If that was like the only thing that the dad was really hard on for was my academic, I think I'd go with the cop.
I don't know why he was so excited about sending his son off to Alaska. That made no sense. But did you notice that Ted didn't have a mother, did he?
No. All right. These two movies, the next one in order has been out for almost over 20 years. So don't even dare say spoilers if you haven't seen the second one. The funny thing about the mom, the stepmom, the other teenager, and was it Bill's dad, is she ends up leaving him for the cop.
Yep.
Then the third movie, she ends up with Deacon, the younger brother.
Oh,
you're kidding.
I shit you not.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
At least she kept it in the family. I don't know. I don't want to think about it. So, if you had to do a history report for let's say high school, because this was a high school movie, and Rufus shows up with a phone booth, who would your top 3 people would be? I'll ask Mark first, since he talks so much.
Top 3 people to go back to history with? Oh,
yeah.
Jeez. I'd have to think on that a minute. Come back to me if somebody else can answer.
Buddha, Cleopatra, and Archimedes.
Archimedes. I get that. Okay.
But everything I've heard about Cleopatra is that she spoke multiple languages, was very fluent in a lot of the sciences and everything else. Of course, I wouldn't speak her language, but I've heard. But her, Archimedes, and then Buddha, which was a real person, what I think would be really cool to talk to. Like, oh, I get to meet her.
All right. Shadow.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Andrew Jackson and Nikola Tesla, or maybe Howard Hughes.
That's okay. Okay. That's fair. Mark?
Yeah, I was going to say Tesla, so I'm going to agree with Shadow there. It was one of my guys. Alexander the Great, and let's go with...
Good one.
I know it wasn't that long ago. Let's go with maybe Albert Einstein. How about that?
I would go for Niels Bohr over Albert Einstein, but that's just me.
Who would I be? Who would I pick?
We know who Connell would pick. It would be Gary Gygax. No, just kidding.
No. Time machine. I'd probably go back for not modern, but middle American history. Probably Wyatt Earp or Doc Holliday. somebody that's actually reasonable with. I wouldn't go back for like Billy the Kid or anybody of that nature, but somebody I could actually reasonably deal with. So Wyatt Earp.
Would you put a knife in your back and then take your time machine? Yeah.
Yeah, so Wyatt Earp for ancient. I don't know. Socrates is always a good choice. Maybe Julius Caesar. And the third one's always a toss up. For I get Tesla. I really get Tesla. But I would probably go with Oppenheimer or Einstein. Yeah, I would one of those two. Because just
And I'm so disappointed in all of you guys. Not one of you picked, Adolf and shoved him off a cliff.
Why? I don't think it would make no difference. See, people always think it's one or the other, but
Because it's funny, Owen. Because it's funny.
I mean, I had Marilyn Monroe stuck in my head there for a hot
talk
second.
about it.
Yeah, I almost went that route with like Joan Jett or the girl who played the evil princess on Buck Rogers, but I'm not going to go that route.
I'm gonna. What was the Russian saint where she tied Olga of Kiev?
Oh,
Was.
yeah. Was she Russian or no? She was. Well,
She was
Ukraine
Russian.
wasn't-
Well,
Yeah.
Russian Ukrainian, because really there is no difference between the two, despite what people say. But she was the one that tied the birds. Fire to the birds and set the whole city on fire. Yeah.
I guess I'd pick those. I mean, I don't speak Latin fluently. Being Catholic, I mean, I can get through a Catholic mass with my Latin, but that's about it. I was trying to find people that at least spoke English or a variation of a language that's still being spoken as of right now.
I mean, if we're going to do that, is Niels Bohr, to me, was a great one, which I know you guys picked Oppenheimer and Einstein. I'm like, Niels Bohr is the one that did all the quantum stuff, and he was a contemporary of them.
Right, but Omen, Tesla's the guy who invented the time machine.
No. I like Tesla too. Don't get me wrong.
I like Tesla.
Yeah. I would.
And
I
if
mean,
you're going to
you
have
put
a
them all in
time
the room,
machine, it might break down. And you might not always have a big chunk of bubble gum to fix it in some pudding cans.
You know what? It's the one thing I did take from my ex that I first saying was, if someone offers you a piece of gum, chew it. So I'm like, oh, okay. If you have bad breath, just give someone some gum. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah, I think that's like, if I got anybody from history, they had to speak at least a language that I could figure. I mean, I want to see, joking around, put Christopher Columbus, who is the, founder of America, technically, sort of, kind of, roundaboutly, but he never actually stepped a foot in Northern America, but that's okay. Or Eric the Red. I mean, put those two on the stage and have them duke it out. I think would be interesting, at least, academically.
I think that it'd be, if you're going to go for history, Francisco de Llano would be really cool, because he sailed down the Amazon. He talked about all these cities, and 100 years later, people said, oh, he made it all up. And now we're finding out he was correct.
It's like saying going back and getting Marco Polo.
Actually, that would be a pretty cool one. Of course, he gets done.
I know. I'm not trying to put words in Shadow's mouth, but Shadow, you said you're not a big history guy.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I think I love this movie because of the history. I mean, they poke fun at it, a lot of fun. What did you guys think of the history they poke fun at? For example, Napoleon. God, where's Napoleon? At the Waterloo.
Well, that's a little inside joke. I think that was really good when he shows about Russia and putting water slides. And I like the whole fact where he says, I don't think it's going to work. He's like, I mean, okay, so there's that. I like the stuff that they did with Socrates. I like the fact they actually used the real languages. They didn't, like, Joan of Arc didn't say anything in English. Socrates didn't say anything in English. But I thought that was really cool for that, is like, oh, okay, who would have known stuff? And and I thought that was good. I don't know if Sigmund Freud
scene
actually.
with the scene with Joan of Arc and Ted, where he just holds out his hand, and she's like, "Are you Jesus?" I mean, that was right. Tell me that's not what you thinking.
Jack would have rolled over and died.
I thought it was pretty good. I did like the fact of when they were hitting on the girls in the mall, and then Sigmund Freud comes in and you just heard the whole. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like Socrates had a chance, a snowball's chance in hell. Come on, they can't all be Missy.
What about you, Mark?
What's the question?
God, I kind of forgot. With all the history, the history into Windows or the history things they did with this character, was there a particular one that you enjoyed? Like I said, Napoleon with the Waterloo, Omenau. Shadow just said no Arc when she's in church. Was there any of them that you actually enjoyed more than the others? Just how they were kind of poking fun of that history.
Yeah, it was probably either be Napoleon or the scenes with Genghis Khan when Genghis Khan was doing his barbarian stuff was pretty funny and iconic, I think.
There's a scene with Socrates.
Are we going to discuss the way they actually also screwed up time?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. Because thank you. I had a few thoughts on that one, and I kind of forgot. I got excited. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite. What was I going to say?
I don't know.
When they were talking to Socrates, and Socrates was being philosophizing. I know that's not the word, but he's doing his spiel in Greece, and was it Bill or Ted? Bill.
Yeah, where Socrates does the whole thing with it wasn't General Hospital. What was but they literally
Days
took
of
the
Our
lives.
Lives.
Yeah, Days of Our Lives. Yeah.
No! When they're actually in Greece, and they did that riff off of "All We Are Dust in the Wind."
And he does a riff from Days in Our Lives.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it? Oh,
Yeah.
Hands in the hourglass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of little Easter eggs in there that are.
How do you think they screwed up time there, Shadow? Let's jump into that.
Taking the princesses and turning them into 80s girls, ball girls, only to then become members of the band and part of the future that would change the course of history, or assure the course of history. Taking those girls, from their home. Okay, suddenly these two princesses disappear in England. You think there wouldn't have been a big old stink about that? That would have probably, been pretty kind of a big deal. Not to mention every single one of those historical figures going back to their own time without a Men in Black flashy device to make them forget everything that happened would probably have changed the course of history in millions of different ways. From Beethoven's work to Genghis Khan's fighting style to what Billy the Kid, what became of him. Every single historical figure would have gone back to their own time and be told forget everything you learned. Not possible. Pretend like it never happened. Not possible. Rufus would have to come along with a flashy device, make him forget the last 24 hours, and
Well, obviously it didn't work out for Napoleon. I mean, now that he died,
or Billy the Kid, or any of them, really. I mean,
well, Socrates drank poison for corrupting me, and then Genghis Khan died in his bed, effectively.
Yeah. I mean, from a very literal sense, you're absolutely right. They kind of screwed up. They did horribly screwed up with time. I don't know. They were princesses, and they didn't. I mean, there was just Princess Joanna and Princess Elizabeth. They're not like Princess. They weren't King George's. Wait, was one of them King George's daughter? No, because King George didn't have a Joanna. I only had one kid, not two.
Well, was it Henry V that they were talking, or it was one of Henry's? I thought, but But it was that time frame. But it wasn't his. But it was just some minor noble daughters.
Yeah, I think the daughters were probably the only safe ones to. I mean, people died of whatever back at that era fairly easily. So 2 girls just disappear in history.
You say that like nonchalantly, but who knows what their children might have gone on to accomplish,
We know what they
or
accomplished.
their grandchildren.
And
Well, I
we
know
what
what their children coming. You have to watch Bill and Ted's Face the Music to find out what happens.
You know what I mean, though. What were they originally destined to do before the time machine got in the way?
Apparently nothing, because Rufus pulled them out with no problem.
Right. No, I get that. That's plot armor, but in the real scheme of things, maybe something else was supposed to happen. I mean, like
Well,
they couldn't have found two girls in modern times to do the same thing.
We can watch the Butterfly Effect. And what is that movie called? Millennium or something like that, where they pull people off the plane and send them to the future? Do you remember that movie?
Right, or what was it, Free Jack or something like that with Mick Jagger and
Amelia
was it
Estevez?
Michael J. Fox?
No, it was
Emilio.
Amelia.
Oh yeah, Emilio Estevez, my twin brother. Right.
I think
sorry.
I've seen.
Your internet's killing me, Omen.
I don't know. What's going on.
That I've been meaning to ask, Owen. Everywhere you go, that happens.
It has to do something with my internet. I just don't know what's causing it.
Is your kid with you?
No,
Nah,
that's me.
Can't
blame
blame it on
him
the
then.
kid this time.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you on the whole time traveling aspect, how they screwed with time, but at the same time,
It's a time
this was
travel
just-
movie. You kind of got to go with it, or you end up being the killjoy of the movie, and that wasn't my intention. But it's just amusing that they actually with this movie and what happens in the future and everything, they kind of said F it to the prime directive or whatever you want to call it, and just said no, we're doing this.
well, to be fair, it wasn't them that took the time travelers back. It was Rufus who took everybody back. He could have, wiped their memory. It was kind of left unsaid.
Right. No. If anything, I blame those 3 weirdos on the thrones. It was all their machinations, so that they could be in power. So
That is actually
but-
okay. Thank you. I that was actually one of my favorite scenes.
You mean the one time that they take off their glasses to look at them?
I don't know. It was just something about that scene that just, I don't know. It was one of my favorite scenes. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. I know that's a weird scene to like, but for some odd reason, I just kind of, because those kids those 2, probably was getting shit from everybody in high school. One of them was getting shit by his dad, only to go into the future and have people that they don't know, 3 old guys, be really fucking awesome to them.
Well, let's
if it put you on a throne, wouldn't you do the same thing if it put you on a throne? I mean, we don't know if they were actually.
No one
I kind of picture them. I kind of picture them as like being like growing up. Those 3 nameless characters growing up being like the presidents of the Bill and Ted fan club somewhere on Earth, and get together and go, you know what? I got this great idea, and then the movie starts. They somehow bring their favorite musicians into damn near godhood.
700 years later.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, I looked at it as I thought that was interesting, but then that's always the problem I have with time travel. But then again, maybe it is fixed. Maybe you have to do the same thing over and over again. That it doesn't occur. It's the Babylon 5, which is why you have to watch season 1 to understand what happens in the later seasons.
I get that. I just got to fucking need to get drunk to get through it. What did you guys think of the soundtrack?
I liked it.
It was interesting. I'm actually probably one of the only people who, at least watching right now, who knows who Shark Island is. They did this one song. I was growing up as a kid, and Christmas rolled around, and they did Santa Claus is Coming to Town to the tune of Heading Out to the Highway by Judas Priest. And it wasn't until last year I was able actually to find that song again. I heard it one time and it stuck with me forever and ever and ever. And then last year we were doing something in the car, Jackie and I'm like, we were playing like Christmas music, just looking for stuff. And I'm like, oh, I got this song. I remembered, the name Shark Island. And then I saw that they performed an actual song for this movie. And they literally that was as far as I know, their claim to fame. So it was kind of nice to see that. I don't even remember what song it was. Maybe it was in the very beginning. I'm like,
they did two
what?
songs for this movie. One
Really?
was Father Time.
Okay.
And the other one was Dangerous. And the Christmas, I guess it was a singlet. I'm Electric, B/W, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, was released in 1983.
So they've been stuck up in this noodle all that time.
What did you think of the soundtrack, Mark?
It was okay. It served the purpose for the movie. Like I said, I didn't know who recognize any of the performers or whatever. So some of it, something kind of reminded me of Sammy Hagar and some of it, but other than that, I didn't really pay much attention. But it's served the movie, I guess.
Okay.
No.
Go for it.
One thing, how can we forget the fact that, Ted comes up with the realization they still have to learn how to play.
Yeah, there's watching that. And I'm talking, Mike's wife's first husband was a musician. He played bass and he was in a punk band back in the early 90s. And I'm watching this movie and she kind of laughed. I'm like, what's funny? You know how many startup bands sounded just like them?
Was there a single song by the Go-Go's in this movie?
No.
Or on the soundtrack CD?
There was one from Extreme, Big Pig, Breakaway. I don't know that one. Power Tool. Warrant had a single in this song. Had a song in this movie, but no, not
the
like
band on the disc then.
No, it wouldn't be. Would have been. Yeah, it was still probably on a vinyl. No, 80. It would have been a cassette.
And it's still vinyl.
88 could have been a seat. There could have been CDs, but would have been.
Yeah, maybe. Because one of the very first CDs was actually a Blue Oyster Cult album. But I thought, yeah, you may be right. I thought it was 87. I'd have to go look.
I was poor. I did cassettes for a while.
Because that's where actually kind of a big deal. If you knew what you were doing, you could record and bootleg your own, and really easily. And you couldn't really do that with a record player.
I mean, who here made their own theme set, a cassette tape with cassette tapes back growing up? They found a way to get all the songs they want.
Mixtapes, come on, guys! You wouldn't even have the movie say anything without mixtapes.
Yeah, I never did that.
I was so pathetic in high school. I would date somebody and I would make them a mixtape. That was my way of showing my affection. I like music.
I'd still do it today if I could.
I still see cassette tapes sometimes out there. Every so often. God, I had probably hundreds.
Just think about it. If they're bringing back vinyl at like Walmart, Five Below, and things like that, it's probably just a matter of time before they go, well, let's do cassettes again. Or will they go backwards and do 8-track?
Yeah, they They do them. It's a hipster thing to do. I've been seeing them out and about. It's a last couple years. It's like a hipster thing to do is bring back cassettes.
I didn't even know what the
Really?
hell an 8-track was, to be honest. I never saw one. In the world.
You never
Oh
saw
yeah,
it,
we
really?
had 8 tracks when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, I know what
Yeah.
8-track is. I had,
8-track
what was
was
it?
awesome. If you could, because the cool thing about an 8-track is if you knew how to record on one. I had this one that was like 90 minutes, right? And I recorded all kinds of cool stuff on it. I only had one that I could do this with, but it would automatically start back at the beginning and replay it. Which, yeah, I know some cassette players had that function later on, but this was a great way to just, an hour and a half, especially at a party, no one's really paying attention, or you have, all the great songs, everybody wants to listen to. And as people come and go from the party, they don't recognize the fact that it's just on a loop.
I mean, with cassette tapes was the only way I could put like Def Leppard, Sammy Hagar, and all my favorite singers on one thing, so I didn't have to dig through a pile of different cassettes.
Yep.
One right after the next. Anyways,
Or record off the radio.
I've done that. I
had
did
tons
that.
of Dr. Demento, because that stuff. I mean, back then if you heard a song on Dr. Demento, you were never gonna freaking hear it again unless it was, Fish Heads, Dead Puppies, something from Weird Al. Otherwise, it would be, one and done. You'd never hear it again, and you'd be lucky if you could ever find it until the internet came around. And then, if you remembered that stuff like Existential Blues, you were probably not likely to see it again in your lifetime.
I want to talk about the mall scene. As much as I like to say I'm a Generation X type, all my friends are older than I am. I'm late. Technically, I'm a millennial by the year I was born, but my mom was a kid raising a kid. Then my grandparents were the way they are, so I feel more like a Generation X type personality type feel. That's why I feel like I have. But the mall scene, man, the 80s in the mall, and I feel that this movie actually gave the mall a true, I don't know, what's the word I want to use?
Homage?
Yeah, it's like the mall was its own minor character in this movie.
I can see
What do
that.
you guys think?
Yeah, I could see that. It was kind of a time capsule thing of the importance of the ball in the 80s. It was a thing back then. Probably Fast Times at Ridgemont High probably had a bigger. The mall had a bigger play in
I won't
in
say
that
it's a
movie,
character,
but
but kind of is a character in its own right.
You mean Mallrats? Oh, sorry.
Hey, that's another good one. But that's more of the Mallrats was the 90s mall.
yeah.
Yeah, I know it was.
Hey,
When
those
you guys
were
were in high school,
those were a great place to socialize and not really get in a lot of trouble. It really wasn't that kind of atmosphere. Maybe at the arcade there might have been a little kerfluffle every once in a while, but for the most part, it was instrumental to so many folks' early years. I remember going, and they're still there, to 2 different malls, and we were going there as soon as we could ride bikes and get there, and especially during the summer, if you didn't have access to a pool, it was a no-brainer.
I get that. I want to talk about the school for a second because I think the school part was interesting. Did any of you guys have to do? I mean, we all went through history class, one variation of history class. I mean, I can't imagine much is different between our years when we were all back in high school. I think different things might have been talked about a little bit more, but for the most part, I feel like probably got the same experience that you guys got. Did any of you guys have to do a great big thing like they had to do in the movie where they had to give an oral report for?
I remember giving oral reports but that was always in English for what we read. That was
It's
It's
one.
always
And
just
then,
in the class.
and then the other thing is I did the technical theater, so I used to operate all the lights and backdrops and stuff for things. So, you
So
know,
you were that guy.
hey, I didn't want to be in front of there. I remember giving some kid the prop called for a jelly sandwich, which I went down to. I got my mother to take me down to the supermarket, and we decided to get jalapeno jelly, and I put it inside of there. And so the kid's doing his little monologue, and I hear this third hand, of course, from my teacher, because she said she went over and the guy is doing his scene and he's eating the jelly sandwich. And then he goes, it's hot, it's hot. And she said some other kid came up and took a bite of it and goes, this is good. What's wrong with it? And she said, you put jalapeno jelly in there. Could you make some more of those sandwiches for the other actors? I was like, oh man.
You would have killed me. You would quite literally would have killed me.
Well, that's what I thought was so funny was that's what happened to that poor kid. But the fact that the teacher asked me to make more of them.
He literally died and Owen's laughing. Okay. Always. Oh man.
But no, we used to. But no, those were the things. It was enjoyable. I enjoy technical theater.
I don't remember having to do. I had to do oral reports in English. I don't remember having to do. I mean, I might have done like a small one in history, but it wasn't on that scale. And what I was thinking was was that just for the movie, or did actually different schools might have done that as like a final report before you graduate? I know every high school is slightly different than the next, but there are some things that do, transfer from school to school to school. I had to take the constitutional test to graduate from high school. Was that a thing when you guys were? Did you have to study the Constitution and the government to pass, or was that not a big thing?
Even when I took my EP classes, we didn't have to do that. A lot of stuff was just. Well, to be fair on that, is I was vocal enough as it was that they, but we did stuff in class, but never anything on stage. The only stuff we ever did on stage was theatrical. That's what you're supposed to do. If you're in theater, you're supposed to have a stage. And my school actually was one in several counties where they'd all come down and compete. So we got a bunch of students all coming in. So all we would do is, they would tell us, okay, raise the curtain, do other stuff. That's what we would do in the background, and they would handle, the sound and the light. But yeah, I have no problems with it. But no, I can't imagine what actually being in front of stage and look at how many hours were spent there. Think of if everyone does a 15-minute presentation and you've got 30 kids in your class, which is what was standard for us, 28 to 32.
That's an all-day affair.
I think theirs was close to, it was 47 minutes.
It was like 2:45 is when they were supposed to do theirs or something. Yeah, they're the very last people to do their report.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing we had to do was in English class my senior year. I had to do, I don't know, a 15-minute Shakespeare dialogue. But that's about it. All right. What about you, Mark? You had to do anything close to that nonsense?
No, nothing that. I mean, probably like some passage, like something in English, memorizing passages from a Shakespearean play or something like that. But nothing like that. And I don't, like I said, like Omen was saying, we had like where I went to school, always had like 30 kids plus in all my classes. We had a big number of students, so I don't even see how they would facilitate to do something like that in a class, class time.
I mean, I remember us doing book reports in English, and they would, that would take like a week or two to go through.
Yeah, it would take like a week to go through all the kids in your class. Yeah.
And the other one is did you notice how packed the auditorium was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyway, but some of these things are for effect, which still makes it
Yeah.
Right. Did anybody have a favorite actor in this movie? Did one actor overall stick out more than the others?
I mean, Napoleon.
So you like the guy who played Napoleon? Okay, that's fair.
I thought he did a lot of fun.
He had the most airtime other than Bill and Ted.
Well, not only that is when he was going down the water slide, and apparently I was reading this, is that they had to keep the park open. So all those people I see in the background are just normal paying customers for the most part. But did you notice how he was going down the slides and he was doing all the things? And he had to have a handheld camera too or something as they're going down. He puts his hand up or something as they're filming him as he's going through the water slide. That was the most impressive. I'm gonna mention one other thing. This was one of the first uses of CGI, actually. I mean, I know there were some other movies that had it, but
yeah, the tubes and the crystal that turns into the. Yeah. I mean, probably not the first, but definitely the first of that generation of CGI. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty prominent.
I think Tron was one of the first to use CGI in it. Tron, and then the Last Starfighter. I think all the special effects in the Last Starfighter were CGI.
I gotta find a way to fit that movie into somewhere because that's one of my favorite. We'll have to do like a outer space sci-fi month. What?
I've never seen Tron.
You never seen Tron?
Oh man.
Oh wow.
It's one of those I appreciate more and all the technical jargon they put into it.
That movie was way too far ahead. It was like Blade Runner. It was too ahead of its time. All the dialogue and lingo and what it was. Nobody understood like computers and anything.
I played the arcade game.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
So
that
was
my favorite. I killed the Discs of Tron. Remember Aladdin's Castle?
Yeah.
You had that seat. You like sat at like a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
I killed it. That was my favorite game, Disc of Tron.
Well, the little cycles.
Those cycle box, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the regular
my
Tron.
favorite.
I'm talking about Discs of Tron. That was Discs of Tron
Oh.
was my favorite. Yeah.
Oh.
I have to figure out how to do a space for like Starfighter, Enemy of Mine. We'll have to figure out how to make that work somewhere down the road because they're all good movies.
Sci-fi? I love sci-fi. It's not a
we could do an entire year on sci-fi. I mean, literally.
exactly.
Yeah, Captain, what are we gonna do? We're gonna die. Oh, sorry.
Well, but you laugh at that. But remember looking at Rand, the last scene for it, where it's like, well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna die. It's probably where they took it from. Actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we watched Rand. When I watched Rand and they did that scene, that was I'm like.
And Rand came out a little bit before the last Starfighter, so I think they stole it from it.
This movie has. I mean, I've watched Keanu Reeves movies over the years. I've never not liked his movies. He's not the most talkable. I think somebody made a joke that he maybe said 3 pages in all 4 of the John Wick movies of lines. I think this is one of the movies where he probably talked the most, if you want to say that's talking.
What about Constantine?
Ain't Constantine.
Or Johnny Mnemonic?
I'm going to mention one other here. I liked him in The Gift, where he was the racist redneck.
Oh yeah, he was
what
good in
was
that
that?
movie. He played that part really good.
What was
He did,
that? What was
he did
that
a
other
good job.
movie he was in? What was that other movie? That god awful movie I had to watch, where he was like the chocolate salesman.
Oh, Walking in the Clouds.
Dude,
I don't want to hear it. That movie, that was the go-to movie there for a while in my dating life if I wanted to get past second base.
how long did that movie run?
Oh, I bought it. I bought it on VHS.
Oh, I see.
All right. half my movie collection, not over. Well, at one point, half my DVD collection was chick flicks for date night. Is it just me, or did Rufus kidnap those princesses?
They went with him willingly. That's not kidnapped.
Yeah, I don't think he kidnapped them. All he had to say is your friend,
Hey, remember the phone booth? I got one right here. No, the real question is no.
Oh God, that sounds so weird.
Exactly. Hey.
I just, Rufus shows up with the two princesses, and they start the band. Then, like, the grown-up part of my brain kicks in. It's like, okay, where are they going to live? None of these jokers have jobs. I can't imagine Dad. I can imagine the one who has a wife being slightly okay, but I can't imagine I'm going to send you to military school, Dad. Be like, hey, she's moving in. What?
Well, we have to remember she wasn't sure with, they somehow got credit cards too. So somebody gave them an expense account.
So honestly, if I was, we're going to go really quick on this one because I have a feeling that it's going to be really easy answers. If you could change one thing in this movie, what would you change? It could be historical person. It could be.
There's one easy one.
Okay, Shadow.
When Ted falls down the stairs in the armor, and then got stabbed but didn't get stabbed. They didn't even need that in the movie. They really didn't.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird thing.
Okay.
I mean, other than that one comment when they after they hugged, that was funny, but you couldn't get away with that today.
No, you could. I was thinking about that when it happened. I was like, man, they couldn't. If nobody's dug that up and gone after Keanu for saying that or being involved in that scene. I'm surprised.
For
what thing you guys talking about?
The deboned, where he says he was boned or whatever.
No, the F word.
After they hug the other F word.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh my God, I was like, yeah, they hug. He falls downstairs. Yeah. Well, I fell out of the armor when I hit the bottom of the stage, the bottom of the stairs.
Which is not how that works.
Yeah, in the back of my head, I'm like, you don't fall out. What did he just like slide out?
He has no bones.
Right.
He's actually liquid.
Yeah.
Most of that armor had to be fastened on. It was
multiple locations.
Yeah.
And I hate myself. I don't hate myself. It's just the fact that I know that.
No, that just means you've paid attention all these years of playing Dungeons and Dragons, etc. You've paid a little attention and maybe delved even a little deeper into history. Don't beat yourself up over that. It was just a stupid scene that didn't need to be in there. I mean, other than they wanted to use the F word in there, I can't think of a reason to have put that scene in there. I mean,
because there were like four
I'm not
jokes
saying anything about the word. It's the whole, complete lack of understanding of how armor works. Just to what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just dumb. It was just really dumb.
Yes, but it allowed him to do several jokes in there. So you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the sword fight. I thought the sword fight was kind of. If you're a teenager, of course you do the sword.
Star Wars references. That was classic. That was much kids at that time. Wouldn't have. That's what they would have thought. They would have thought
That's what
something
they would
from
have went
history.
to. Yeah.
They wouldn't have been, I'm at you, blackguard. No, they would have went to Star Wars references, which was, by that time, all three movies weren't they done by then? 1987.
Yeah.
Were they done?
83 is when Return of the Jedi. But I will say this much: I watched plenty of Excalibur and all the other stuff out there, so I got plenty of the stuff.
Sure, you did. I'm sure most of us did, but we weren't those two, chuckleheads.
All my friends, even other kids, all knew the. Let's be honest. As kids, we watched every sci-fi and every fantasy movie that we could get our hands on.
But that's kind of what makes it funny. Also, is that they went to the most,
Yeah.
because they're in armor. They, kids like us would have, done the D&D fantasy kind of thing, but they went to, well, we're in armor and we got swords, but let's go Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That just made it even funnier.
I think I might have quoted, if I was in that situation as a teenager, I think I might have quoted Robin Hood, Alan Rickman's, and I'll carve your heart out with a spoon scene from Robin Hood with Kevin Costner. But that, I get Star Wars. Star Wars. I get why they did Star Wars. Star Wars has never been my favorite movie, but I completely get it. Or I might quote Errol Flynn.
Especially the actual lines, I'll never rule the galaxy with you. Dumb shit that dumb-ish kids would have said, you know what I mean? As opposed to, anything else. It just made that whole scene pretty funny, all the way around.
No, I mean, there's a lot of references in there for stuff like that. But yeah, it's, but yeah, they were kids that were completely checked out of school, and they just went, oh man, we've got to do this. And actually, they weren't that dumb when they were going through the stuff.
No.
But
to be honest though, I was thinking about kind of what you were talking about, but believe it or not, that was actually part of the vernacular of certain groups to try to use these big words, use them wrong, but use them to try to sound, more intelligent, especially amongst the kids that I knew that weren't all that bright. They would use these big words as sort of a crutch or what have you, to not come across dumb, but to come across, actually, well educated. And it was always funny because it never worked. It didn't stick with society. We don't do that. It's those people talk like that, these people talk like that, and those people mumble like that.
Okay. I'll get back to that really quick because I kind of want to talk about the language in this movie for a hot second. But I want to get back to the what scene would you take out? Obernound, was there one that you would have took out?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Not really, because I was looking up online, and apparently they cut like 30 or 40 minutes out of the movie.
Oh, Jesus.
No one was supposed to be like 2 hours.
I want a director's cut then.
No, you don't. Well, see, the problem is everyone says they want a director's cut. It's one thing when they cut it for time. It's another when they cut it for content. And those are two very different things. If you ever watched part of the original Star Wars before his wife got to it, oh my God, it would have been such crap. There's a reason she won an Academy Award. But that's just listening to it. And this is the problem I find with a lot of movies. This one actually didn't have that problem, but a lot of movies, they always get the feel good the last 20 minutes, and most comedies drag. This was one that did not. It's always like the sappy, happy, feel good. I'm just like, God, I could just get the last 20 minutes out of the movie and let's just end it where it's actually funny. Stop trying to, this one did a good job for the whole thing. It was humorous and entertaining all the way through. I know we watched Scrooge last year, but it still feels like it drags the last 10 to 20 minutes of that film just because of that. And this one does not. So
Bill Murray did the Minnesota Goodbye at the last 10 minutes of Scrooge.
Yeah, but it's not alone for that film. You can look at most comedies, and a lot of them all do that. And that's why I don't like that. That's one of the reasons why
okay. The director, Stephen Harkins, directed Critters, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, The Mighty Ducks, The Three Musketeers, 101 Dalmatians. I mean, this guy's done some, decent stuff. Go for it.
But no, I mean, just like the, which I think was funny, it's like Ridley Scott. They're like, we want the director's cut. Ridley Scott says the original movie was the director's cut. It wasn't like the Aliens where you could tell if they cut for time, for this. But this to me was perfect for it. They did very good editing. It was, everyone can complain about this scene, but the pacing was good. They had the right number of jokes. I'm not disagreeing with Shadow when they get stabbed. It's like, if you stab someone, there should be blood or something. And I'm going to mention one other thing, though. And maybe I didn't go back and watch it. But when he tells all of the servants to leave, when he thinks that Ted's dead, who is that Ted underneath the table? I couldn't quite tell.
No,
Okay.
Ted was not underneath the table because I was looking. I'm like, okay, where is he if he's not in the armor? Because I saw the scene, and when I was watching the scene, it's like he's not in that suit because the way things were laying on the floor. Once again, I'm too big of a nerd. It's like, okay, where the hell is he?
Well, no. But there was something moving underneath. That's why I was asking when the service.
Yeah, it wasn't him. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't him.
Okay, that's why I was double checking because I didn't go back and stop and freeze frame. But I saw there was something underneath the table that was moving, so I wasn't sure.
Mark, what was your scene that you cut?
I can't. That's probably the best one. Otherwise, yeah, it's just I don't know. I think it was cut.
There was one other thing that bothered me. There was one other little scene. You guys will probably maybe disagree, but when Genghis Khan is doing his thing in the mall, when he grabs the skateboard and does the flip with the trampoline, just sheer schlock. Okay, if they cut that out, I'd be like, fine. You know, if I'd seen it in the director's cut, I'm like, yeah, there's no way Genghis Khan's going to learn that maneuver. I mean, because don't forget, at one point, the movie, they were told they had 2 hours to get to the presentation. They went to the mall. They went to freaking Waterloo. They went all over the freaking. There was and they weren't using the time machine. They were using a station wagon.
I know.
There was just not enough time.
Well, yeah, but now you're picking at little minor nitpicks that are in a
That's why I
comedy
said it's a
movie.
minor thing. I
Yeah,
know.
You gotta let that go and just let them move. Yeah.
Yeah, I did catch the
Just
whole
a
2
little
hours. I don't know how spread out that. I imagine it's a major, maybe not a major city, but I imagine it's a pretty good sized city. And I know how long it takes me to get from point A to point B in Peoria. And Peoria, Illinois is not, it's let's say Chicago. Chicago's a fairly decent size.
To get to a water park, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Unless you can take the surface streets and it's within 10 city blocks, you're not getting all that done in 2 hours. But comedy movie,
Yeah.
Well, there's the pacing aspect. I mean, even like where I lived, where the mall was 2 miles away, the school was literally within walking distance for me. Even then, getting 2 hours all the way through, I mean, hell, you would never get through that. And we have a little minor water park here, but yeah, it's trying to get everything that close and moving around. Not less their house is right in the middle, 2 blocks away from everything.
I mean, even living in Nashville, everything was like a fucking 45-minute drive away. Everything. Chicago was horrible. It took me half an hour to drive from one place to another, 4 miles away, whereas where I currently live, it takes 8 minutes. I would take anything. No, I agree. The armor scene was just dumb.
But it allowed him to have their little moment.
When he goes in the last time and gets his ass chewed. Oh, I know what I would change.
Yeah, probably could have cut that a bit. Yeah, that last
with
the dad.
I know exactly.
Say, you're gonna leave now. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what scene I would change. When they're in the very beginning and they're having the argument, dude, we need to get better so we can get Eddie Van Halen. I would have changed out Eddie Van Halen for Rhodes. Help me out, Shadow.
Eddie Van Halen was a better guitarist.
Was he really?
Yeah, Randy Rhoads was a mess. He
actually
was freaking.
I heard Randy Rhoads. I heard Randy Rhoads was easier to approach, and it would actually show you how to do things. Where Eddie Van Halen was just a dick.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Eddie Van Halen used to turn his back on so people wouldn't see how he fingered the.
Yeah. He was a superior guitarist. I'm not talking about personality wise. If you want someone who's better, I mean, as in technically better, you'd go with Eddie Van Halen.
Well, I mean, if you actually look at like what Van Halen did,
I'm not sure, but Randy Rhoads also died really young, so you might not have been able to actually get him.
Actually, what I find funny is that they said that Van Halen said, "Yeah, I'd be in the movie if they had asked." In retrospect,
oh, did he actually say yes?
He would have said yes if they'd ever asked him. Well, it's easy when something does well, but it's very hard when it's like some no-name movie coming out. You're like, why would I be part of this? But you know, years later, I said, would you have been in Bill and Ted's? And he's like, yeah, if they'd asked me, I would be. But that's what he said.
My mom made me watch like a 2-hour documentary on Randy Rhodes, and that guy he seemed like he was an awesome person. So that's the one thing I would change was who they were.
He was a weirdo, dude. He was a freaking weirdo.
He was a musician. I kind of, no offense, but I kind of consider most musicians kind of be kind of weirdos.
So Shadow, did you ever meet him?
No, but I met one of his special friends, Sharon Osbourne.
Oh, okay.
No, he was with Quiet Riot before they blew up.
Yeah. They did like Quiet Riot did like 3 albums in Japan. But yeah, they were really popular over there.
I was just going to ask because Shadow, you seem to be the kind of person that would have actually met some of these people. So that's what I was asking.
No, he when I was meeting those people, he had already passed away, but I did get to meet Sharon Osbourne, and
she seems like an interesting lady.
She was a freak.
Well, look who her husband is. So, anyways,
Right.
She was his manager for a while, wasn't she? And so she's
the reason why he had a career because her dad's like, no, this guy's fucking nuts, and she's like, no, there's something here.
Yeah, she kept him grounded for some of those things, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess this question is directed more to Shadow. I've only been out to California once, and I was a kid. But did that actually, not Chicago, California, did that actually feel like Chicago, the scenes of the show? California. Man, yeah, I'm tired. Leave me alone.
No, it was. Everything about it just screamed it. If I found out that they didn't shoot in California, I'd be like, why? That's where Hollywood is.
It was Arizona where they shot everything in. They shot the movie.
Really?
I had a question for Sal real quick. In all these movies, when you see these high school movies that take place in California, I think I saw this like maybe in Karate Kid and stuff like too. It like where the lockers are in that, they're not in a hallway, but it's like an outside area where the lockers is that a thing in California? Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. My middle school and high school both had they all had the lockers outside in like what you'd call the quad.
Yeah.
They were all literally outside. It was, even if at the worst, if it rained, for a couple of days or a week straight, which it used to do here, nothing was going to happen. Things weren't going to get drenched. Your books would have been dry. The water wouldn't have been able to get in. There were, there was, hallway,
like overhangs or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay, I just always wondered that. Yeah.
They did have vents in them, but the vents pointed down, so your stinky gym clothes wouldn't just, terrorize the inside of the locker, or your lunch, wouldn't get all baked in there or what have you. But yeah, that was like I never thought of it. I could see them, especially as time went on, where they would want them indoors, so that over the weekend people wouldn't be vandalizing lockers, because even though our high school was locked up, we could still hop a fence and go in, and if you had a pair of bolt cutters, in an hour you could empty 40, 50 lockers of anything interesting. Not like there would be, but that one dumbass who left something in his locker, a Walkman or something, I suppose, but that was never really an issue either. Nowadays, I could see why they would just want them indoors, because those doors are hard to open, and you're just guaranteed that somebody is going to go, even if just to steal school books, and then try to resell them. So
I'm just thinking that from the outside, those are probably retrofitted, old schools. They said, we need lockers, and they just and that was the easiest way to do it. But I know when I went to school, all of our lockers, of course, my school was like 10 years old by the time I went there, but that was relatively new, so everything was indoors.
When I came back to the States, all the lockers were inside. No, that high school. I mean, I swear I've seen that high school in like 5 other movies, and
Entirely possible. It looked. I mean, it looked like the high schools here. That's why when Mark asked me, it's like that's they all had the same kind of, utilitarian look to them. The same style, cheap ingredient. Nothing remotely stylish in any way, shape, or form. Just pure, not quite prison style, but like 1.5 steps above that.
prison styles. There's a joke there. But no, my other favorite 80s movie with Christian Slater was Pump Up the Volume. I guess that was 90s. And I was wondering what
Heather's was that was a good.
I just watched Heather the other night with my daughter. I don't know if I'm doing her misjustice or not, but I figured it'd be a good father-daughter movie.
I would just start checking my food if she cooks it. Just saying.
No,
Hey, my daughter has a birthday chip that I know she's going to cash this coming weekend, and I'm going to.
And then after that,
actually, of all the 4 of us, I think that Shadow's the most likely to be poisoned by us.
not by my son though, but my mother-in-law, who literally put glass in my freaking food.
Jeez! Wow.
I'm not joking, guys. That is.
She put what in your food?
Broken glass.
Oh,
Damn.
Did you make fun of her? Did you do something?
How would she know?
You are a gringo.
She doesn't speak a word of English.
The real question, was it intentional or is she just lazy?
No. It was in a blender of mocha fraps, and when you're pouring the stuff into the blender, it's kind of hard to see. I mean, unless somehow it was in the actual ice, there ain't no way.
Yeah.
That was an accident.
Damn, Shadow.
Well, time-wise,
Lucky
it's
I
going
found
on.
out. I literally had to, force myself to purge myself of all of that. It was fucked up.
It's going on 6. I don't know what your guys' schedule is. I know we had to start late. Do you want to do it a full 2 hours, or should we cut it because it's going on 6, aka what? Time difference.
Do we have anything else to say? Is really what.
No, I think we could probably cut it here pretty quick. I mean, I don't think there's a lot more to
All
say
right.
about the movie. Classic 80s movie. Everybody should probably.
We did miss the obligatory least favorite actor, but I think we all know who that was.
The dad.
I mean, he, I totally get it. He was actually, if that was my boy, I would want to toughen him up, and I'd think about Alaska. Fortunately, my boy didn't like that.
Your son would want to go to Alaska. There's a difference for military school.
He might, maybe not necessarily Alaska, but he would be like, yeah, cool.
So these are the 2 choices. I either can get you in this military school out in liberal New York, or I can send you up to military school up in Alaska. I'll take Alaska, thinking the way Jack probably would think.
That was. Have you looked at how much those cost? It's like holy
they're not
crap,
cheap.
like nowadays, like
No.
$35,000 a year. Like it's more than going to college.
But they will come out, either a serial rapist or, a fine, upstanding young man.
Mhm.
So, okay, next week it is. Who's up next week?
It's me.
Omen- You Omen out. I thought it was you. And your pick is.
So we'll do. Why can't I remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Okay.
Well, you're the one that picked the school movie.
No,
Back.
it's fine. It's just I'm trying to remember the last time I saw that movie.
I've only seen it once. It's been forever, but not a problem. What about you, Mark? What's your pick?
I'm trying to still think of that. This is back to school, right? That's the theme.
Yeah.
We were just.
I was thinking either a movie called The Faculty or
Oh wow.
Oh wow! You guys
there's
go
a
heavy with
weird
that.
one What?
Or you can go. The faculty's a heavy one, isn't it?
I
Instead of
think
light,
so. Yeah.
humorous. Because I think that Shadow's going for Breakfast Club, and then
Hell yeah.
well, no, we were all
faculty, the faculty, or if you want to do something Gonzo, I get, or Nukem High, maybe if you want to do something Gonzo.
It's your pick, man.
Your pick.
You
I mean,
haven't-
I'm
you
okay with
haven't failed us
Faculty.
yet, brother.
I'm cool with your first choice because it is heavy, but there's still a fair amount of humor in that movie. Plus, it's
Okay.
well,
I
what-
didn't even look to see if that's a free stream one or not. It's old. I would think
Yeah.
it would be, but that doesn't always mean everything. But
I have to laugh because I'm thinking, man, that's not that old of a movie. You look back, it's like 20, 25
Yeah.
years ago. You're like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
yeah, it is that old. Yeah, I know. I hear you.
Little side note though is I'm not sure if I told you this, but they were showing like the top 100 films, and only 3 have that people rate have been in the last 20 years.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that tells you just what the quality of it is. That's why when I'm hearing like Hollywood on strike, I'm like, what do I care?
Good.
There's so many great old films out there that I could watch or rewatch. I said,
If I could, if my opinion merited fucking anybody, I'd say Oppenheimer movie is probably the best movie of this year. It's going to be the most important movie that was been made this year. Of all the fucking crap that got put
Oppenheimer,
out,
you mean not Sound of Freedom?
Thank you, Owen. Thank you.
I
I know for a fact I'll never see Oppenheimer ever. There's literally there's nothing in it that I need to put into my brain. 3 hours of memory. I'm running low, guys. So if I had to pick, it's just not going to happen. But a thought occurred to me. Maybe. There's always that top 100 list. We may want to tackle it. The top 50. That's
I've been
52
trying.
weeks. We can easily pull that.
I've been
Next
trying.
year, starting January, we can seriously just hit the top 50 movies of all time. Start at 50 and work our way to
let's do
2025.
genres. Let's do the top whatever of each genre.
Well, let's
We
see.
could probably
Let's see.
take apart the list. We can take apart the list that way.
Let's
Yeah.
see. Which ones have I done? Citizen Kane, Casablanca. I mean, I've been trying to throw some of these in there. Yeah, some of these
I'll have to. Well, if somebody wants to post it to Discord, we can have a conversation. Starting
or
the
at
new
least,
year.
or at least throw that in when we're talking about a movie. That it's consistently ranked. Roughly here.
Sure.
Just to give people
Yeah,
yet another reason to go out and watch one of these crazy picks that we share with you guys each and every week.
Well, the good news is I have done at least 3 of them this year,
That
or
doesn't
within the last
surprise
12
me.
months.
The beginning of the year, we'll try to knock out the top 100.
Let's see.
That's actually
Or
that
we
sounds
could-
fun.
Or we could in January just hit the top 5.
Well, I'm
Right.
thinking that we do 1 a month or something. That way we can still have stuff that we enjoy rather than just trying to.
Right, that's true too. That's true.
Yeah,
Because there's
instead
gonna
of-
be some crap in there that I'll be like, I'm out. Yeah.
well,
Sound of Music.
The
I'm out. Sorry,
Godfather
guys.
might be good, but come on, man, it's like we already
The
went through all the-
Godfather.
I've never seen a single Godfather movie ever.
Neither
Well,
have
I know, in October for the Halloween one I'm doing Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure. I'm pretty sure. Hey, Hungar. I'm pretty sure Bill and Ted's
What's up,
nowhere
buddy?
near the top, 100 movies out there, but they're worth
Yeah,
watching
fair
at
enough.
least once. Here's a question: all 4 of us have kids. I forced my kid to watch this one. The other 2 older ones absolutely loved it. Would you have your kids watch? Here's the question: would you have your kids watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Yes, yeah, that's actually why
Yeah,
we're buying it.
You'd be kind of failing at your duties if you didn't at least try. This is really a classic movie for just about anybody. I mean, unless you absolutely have some weird ass thing up your rectum about talking about sci-fi or time travel kinds of movies. or you just don't like to laugh and having fun is not, in your
Okay,
repertoire of emotions, then, it's 90 minutes. It's not even, a full 2 hours. If you can't laugh at least once in this movie,
I
what are you
think
doing with
part
your-
of my kids' issue was they just did not get some of the references until I explained it to them.
Well, but that's
There's,
okay. I
there's
mean,
gonna be that. There's
Yeah,
gonna be that.
it's a late '80s time capsule, and if you explain that to your kid, maybe they'll, get it and say, and then they can you'll be laughing at. Then you get, okay, explain to me why that's funny. Maybe you could do something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah,
Well, we're going to call it quits here. It's 6:01 where I'm at, and we try to do this from 4 to 6. I got an early start today, which I apologize to the panel, and I apologize to the chat. I had to be a good father and take one of my kids back to Indiana, so that's kind of what happened. And the great philosopher of Bill and Ted's, be excellent to each other out there, and everybody have a
Party
good
on.
week.
all right, party on, dudes. Later.